back to All Blended Up. It's your girl, Shantanell Linden.
And Johnathon Linden.
And we're back with another episode. So, guys, I must confess, we actually are re-recording this particular episode because the Lord gave us more revelation on the topic that we're speaking from. And so I wanted to re-record with that revelation in mind. And so basically the title of this episode is Empty Threats, Where is Your Follow Through? And if you've been following us, we have been kind of charting through the Bible using different biblical characters to kind of correlate with whatever the Lord has told us concerning our discipline for our children. So the last two segments were two parts. They were called Parenting from Your Trauma, where we tracked the life of Abraham and Hannah. And basically, I said they parented from the place of the promise because of the promises God gave them. They believed it and they went forth with that promise. Now, part two talked about two parents, Jabez's mom and the wife of Jacob, Rachel, when she was dying. Both of those women had traumatic childbirths, and they named their children basically after a name that meant sorrow. And so they parented from the place of the trauma. Now today, I wanted to talk about Eli. And Eli is a priest in the Old Testament, in the book of Samuel, who violated the temple. Really, it was his sons, but because he did not bring correction to his sons, all chaos and pandemonium broke loose in their bloodline as a result. And so I'm going to lay the framework, and then my husband and I are going to discuss just how when you are not following through with your discipline, when you're making empty threats, but there is no consequence in sight, how detrimental it can be. So when you read the life of Eli, it's going to seem like, man, like God really came in harsh, but I wanted to bring like a real firm story to you guys so you can understand the magnitude of not following through. And because that's essentially what happened. So I want to come out of 1 Samuel chapter 2, verse 22. So to give you a background, Eli, he's a priest. At this point, he's gotten old. And his sons, they are doing all kind of wickedness in the temple. So if anybody knows the Bible, they know that the priest in Israel was instructed to take the sacrifices for the children of Israel. So when people came up, maybe they sacrificing a goat or a sheep or whatever they sacrificing, they were to prep and prepare that sacrifice. Now, Eli's sons, because they were wicked, they wouldn't allow the people to prep the sacrifices correctly. They would just take portions of the meat that they wasn't supposed to take, all kind of things. And God looked at this as though they were dishonoring the sacrifice, because essentially those people were bringing those sacrifice to God and to make atonement for their sins. And so God had laid out a protocol. If you go back and read the first 5 books of the Bible, especially like Leviticus, Deuteronomy, where it really goes into detail about the sacrifice, all that good stuff, that's when you kind of get an understanding of the importance of the sacrifice. And so I'm going to read here in 1 Samuel 2, starting at verse 22. And so it says, now Eli was very old, but he was aware of what his sons were doing to the people of Israel. He knew, for instance, that his sons were seducing the young women who assisted at the entrance of the tabernacle. So boom, we find out right out the rip, Eli knows what his sons are doing. So he can't play the role like, Lord, I didn't know. He knew. And he knew, and it says what they were doing. They were, and I believe as we go further down, it'll talk about like how they were taking meat from the sacrifice. But here it talks about how they were seducing the young women. So they up there trying to atone for their sins. And Eli's sons are seducing the women into sin, essentially. And so Eli didn't just sit back and didn't say anything. Verse 23, he does address his sons. Eli said to them, I have been hearing reports from all the people about the wicked things you are doing. Why do you keep on sinning? You must stop, my sons. The reports I hear about among the Lord's people are not good. If someone sins against another person, God can mediate for the guilty party. But if someone sins against the Lord, who can intercede? But Eli's son wouldn't listen to their father, for the Lord was already planning to put them to death. So Eli did tell him. So to Eli's credit, he did tell his sons they were doing wrong. And he also let them know, like, hey, y'all are not just sinning against people, you're sinning against God. And that's why in verse 25 he says, if you sin against another person, God can mediate for you. But if you sin against the Lord, like, who can pray for you? Like, who can be a mediator for you? So he let them know the depravity of his sin. But what I would say is where Eli fell short is he told them they were wrong, but he never took them out of position. Wouldn't you say that, babe? Yeah, exactly. Like, he told them, hey, y'all doing, and we do that. We'll tell our kids, like, hey, y'all are doing stuff, you doing this, you doing that, but then there's no consequence for their actions. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why Eli found himself in trouble with God. Because, I addressed it, but I didn't do nothing about it after I told him.
Yeah, but that was the thing that it even says right there, that Eli, he knew what his kids was doing. Yeah. He knew it. But he didn't put, I say, like, as in today, we didn't put our foot down. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So by him not putting his foot down, these things continue to happen.
That's right.
And so just like in today's society, we know what our kids doing, but we keep it to ourselves and be like, oh, stop doing this or stop doing that. But you're not putting the footwork in and letting them know that, hey, if you do this the consequences going to happen. That's right. And a lot of us, we just continue to throw these broken threats, these broken promises. We throw these. So I can say in the situation that I had, before I talk about my kid, I'm going to talk about me, because what they say, the apple don't fall far from the tree.
That's right.
So what happens was I was young. I got a car. I had my first car in 1990 Bonneville. And my grandmother, my aunt, they went out somewhere. They went somewhere, and they was like, I had no. I was 16. I had no license, and they say, don't take that car. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? As soon as they left, I was gone. Mm-hmm. And you know what I'm saying? I didn't listen, but I remember my auntie telling me, John, don't take that car. You're gonna get in trouble. Mm-hmm. I took the car, got pulled over. They towed the car.
Oh man!
So when they got back, they said, didn't I tell you,
not to take that car.
Exactly. But, you know what I'm saying, I ain't going to say it was a empty threat, but they didn't set the footwork as me making sure I didn't take that car.
That's right, like taking the keys. Putting the car at somebody else's house, or just doing things where you don't have access. Exactly. Because in today's world, like, for instance, with insurance, and we learned this just from having kids that are within a certain age front point. Like, even if your kids are in the house and they're excluded from your policy, they're still like they still gonna charge you a certain amount, because they're like, they still have access to the car. Because we had that situation about a year or two ago where they had added one of my sons to our insurance, and we was like, oh no, that's too much. Like, it was gonna be astronomical, because he's within that age where insurance is gonna be expensive. So they added him to the policy, and it went up to like $1,400, something crazy. So we was like, no, take him off. They took him off the policy, excluded him, but we still was going to be paying $200 more than what we was originally paying when it was just the two of us, my husband and I. And I was like, okay, why are we excluded him? Why are we still paying $200 more than our balance prior to adding him? And they were like, because he still has access to the vehicle. And I'm like, well, if he get in an accident, y'all not gonna pay it out, but it didn't matter. That was the policy. So to your point.
Yeah, to my point. But look what you just said right there. Mm-hmm. The child still have access to that. So it's the same thing with Elijah. He didn't do. He didn't go through. So what he knew what they was doing. Mm-hmm. So he allowed them to have access to what they was doing.
That's
that whole
right.
time. Now if he would have put a nail in it and this is not going to happen, put his foot down, them things wouldn't have been happening.
That's right.
So you know what I'm saying? By him still having access to doing what they're doing, this the consequences. Now he has to deal with it also.
That's right. And now I'm going to get into that, y'all. So we wanted to lay that framework for you guys. And now y'all about to see the consequence. Because Eli didn't sit his sons down, here's his punishment. So in verse 27, it says that a man of God came to Eli and gave him this message. And I'm going to go jump down to 29. It says, So why do you scorn my sacrifices and offerings? Why do you give your sons more honor than you give me? For you and they have become fat from the best offerings of my people Israel. So God correlated him not putting his foot down, like my husband said, as dishonoring him and honoring his children above God, because he knew what they were doing with the sacrifices. He knew they were taking the best meat for themselves. The best meat is supposed to be for God. They supposed to get a portion. There's a portion that's supposed to be sacrificed to God, and then like the fat and all that's supposed to be burnt. They wasn't doing none of that. Now, if you want to hear more about the sacrifice and how it was, what all they were doing, I believe that's like higher up in chapter 2, starting at the 12th verse. It'll tell you like what they were doing with the sacrifices. So I'm just kind of, for the sake of time, just bouncing around trying to give you the main meat of it. So God punished Eli because it says that he honored his sons above God, because he knew what they were doing with the sacrifices. He knew how they were violating his law by not preparing the sacrifices correctly. And when you read I'm going to just give a summary, verses 30 through 33 or 36, it gives the punishment. It gives that what God says is going to happen, like Eli and his lineage. So now this is beyond just his sons. This is talking about his whole bloodline. No longer will him and his lineage be able to operate as priests. And he says, or they would have short life, like their lives will be cut off short, and the ones that do survive, like it's so that they can see the consequences of the sin. And so read verses 30 through 36 to really get a backstory. But remember, I talked about Hannah last week. Hannah prayed for a son, prophet Samuel. And Eli is the one that prayed for her in the temple and was just like, may God grant whatever your request. And she wound up getting pregnant. She had Samuel, and she kept her end of the bargain. She brought Samuel to the temple, and now Eli is mentoring Samuel to be a prophet. Now, this is where it gets juicy, y'all. So God done punished Eli and his bloodline. They can no longer operate as priests. So God needs to raise up another priest. So what's so funny, babe, is God, the very person that Eli mentored, is who's about to take his place. That's what's crazy. So let me give y'all the backstory. So, and I was going to start at 13, but I'm going to go up because I want y'all to see Eli's, how he's literally teaching Samuel how to hear the voice of God. And when Samuel learns how to hear the voice of God, God is going to speak to him about Eli. Mm-hmm. And now he's going to have to tell Eli, hey, bro, this is what God said about you. Exactly. And that's the crazy part. So it starts at verse 5. I'm going to start at verse 5. It says, what is it? He got up, talking about Samuel. Samuel got up and ran to Eli. He said, here I am. Did you call me? And Eli said, I didn't call you. Go back to bed. So he did. Then the Lord called out again, Samuel. Again, Samuel got up and went to Eli. Here I am. Did you call me? I did not call you, my son. Eli said, go to bed. Samuel did not know the Lord because he had never had a message from the Lord before. And so the Lord called a third time, and once more Samuel got up and went to Eli. Here I am. Did you call me? Then Eli realized it was the Lord calling the boy. So he said to Samuel, go and lie down again. And if someone calls you again, say, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. So Eli is teaching him how to hear the voice of the Lord. So Samuel went back to bed, and the Lord came and called as before, Samuel, Samuel. And as Samuel replied, speak, Lord, the servant is listening. Then the Lord said to Samuel, I am about to do a shocking thing in Israel. I am going to carry out all my threats against Eli and his family from the beginning to the end. Verse 13, this is the one I'm going to put my pen in. I have warned him that judgment is coming upon his family. How long? Forever, y'all, because his sons are blaspheming God, and Eli hasn't disciplined them.
See how it happens?
That's deep.
Yeah.
It said because Eli did not discipline them. Had Eli, and this is just my thought process, had Eli taken them out of position, then they wouldn't have had even the opportunity to continue to dishonor God. Now his sons are about to lose their life, y'all. His sons, in the next chapter, they die in war. And you can read that in chapter 4, starting at the verse 17. That's when Eli gets the report that his sons died in war and that the Israelite army had lost the battle. The Ark of the Covenant, which is another sacred thing in the tribe of Israel, that was stolen. Both of his sons died. Then him hearing this news, he fell back and died. Not only that, so Eli dead, his sons are dead. The daughter-in-law, his son Phineas, wife was pregnant. And that's the crazy part. You got a whole wife. That's a whole nother thing. You got a whole wife and you seducing women in the temple. But that's a whole nother topic for another day. But his wife is pregnant. So when she hears this news, she goes into labor. She dies during childbirth. She dies after she have her child. And she names her child Ichabod, which means the glory of God has left. So not only because of Eli not disciplining his sons, he got punished, his sons got punished, and now the whole lineage behind him gets punished. And y'all may think, that's harsh. Like, by me being easy on my kids, is it that serious? It's not that deep. Y'all, now God, this is our old covenant. We're in a new covenant. So thank the Lord. We have, I think, a more measure of grace and mercy than what they had then. But that does not mean that we have got to take this seriously. So the reason why I wanted to record this, my husband and I, was because we had a situation that transpired, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because we still kind of dealing with it. But we had a situation that transpired this weekend. So my husband and I went back on our word because our son, one of our sons, like, he hasn't just been doing all of the right things, or I'll just say putting his best foot forward in the instructions that we gave him, particularly in school. But we still tried to reward him with something, and we knew not to do it. We got counsel from other people not to do it, and we did it anyway. And y'all, when we tell you it backfired quick, was it even 24 hours?
Less than 24 hours.
Less than 24 hours, y'all. It backfired against us. And we both knew. We said, man, we knew we shouldn't have did that. But because, again, like I talked about in my last segment, sometimes you got to think about why it is that you make the decisions that you do. Why is it that you tell your kids, I'm not going to do nothing else. I'm not going to do this until you start doing X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to do this, that, and the third. And I think the reason why we still do it is because it's the trauma. Like, we're still trying to give our kids everything we didn't have. We're trying to be better parents than the parents that we had. And now we're putting ourselves in situations, at least that's my opinion. I'm going to let my husband give why he thinks we go back on our word. And I'll just say, I think it's because you really have a desire to do these things. So you have it in your mind, like, this, man, at this point in my child's life, when they graduate, I want to do this. When they get married, I want to do this for them. When they graduate 4th grade, I want to do this, then the 3rd. But you can't think about your dream and how you want it to go. If they don't deserve it, you don't need to do it. And I think we get too caught up in what we desire for them, and still giving it to them when they don't deserve it, because God desires to give us a lot of things. But if he know we're not ready for it, he not giving it to us. And we know that that's biblical, because the Bible says he chastises those whom he loves. Like, he chastises us when we do wrong. And it isn't because he loves us that much. He knows that if I continue to let them, and I believe that's why when we made this decision and went against the sound counsel, and even that voice on the inside of us, God corrected us quickly, because he loves us. He didn't let us continue in that rebellion, because then we probably would have done something else. But because we got corrected quickly, yeah, we know not to do that again. What's your take on it? Why you make decisions? Why you go back on your word when you say you're not doing something?
Well, let me give the story again, because you too nice. Because our show, we transparent, right? So we being really transparent. So the thing was, we have a son that's graduating. He's he's graduating high school. Me being me, I remember 12th grade. I rented my own car. I got a rental car. I didn't rent my own car. I paid for my rental car, but somebody else, got it for me. I ain't have no problems at all. So, boom. Me knowing, though, I said to myself that I know he haven't been doing, like, good. Like, how can I put this? He haven't been doing the right things. So, but graduation time, I'm thinking about me. Even though that's him going through it, but I'm thinking about me, what I want my son to be. Oh, I want my son to have a good time. I want him, it's only 1 year, you know what I'm saying? I'm pumping myself up so he can have a good time, but it's like, I'm not going to be there. But I just want, oh man, 12th grade, it's only once a year. But even, I would not lie, even before this, I said, I'm not doing certain things for him. I have certain people that I talk to, besides my wife, that I talk to, get counsel from. And,
that's right.
And they all told me, don't do it. But me being me, I went against everything they said. I prayed on it. It was still a no, and I still went against it. And I believe that's why it went faster than it supposed to.
Exactly.
And I mean, it went less than 24 hours. And the crazy part, I wasn't even in town. But when that happened, I had to come in town. So, one thing is that little, we always say, I can hear something telling me to do this. And you like, I'm tripping, but this is what I want to do. Sit back and listen. Pray or something. I knew it, though. I knew it. And I said, man, I hope this don't happen. But when you say something, because you thinking that's the worst. Yeah, it could be the worst. It happened. It ain't happen as worse as it could have.
Yeah.
But by me, I'm going to say the man in the house, not putting my foot down, not being straight up with my son, I'm dealing with them consequences.
Yeah.
And he also had to deal with the consequence at the same time, because what he wanted to use that car for, he wasn't able to use it for. So he got a consequence. I got a consequence. At the same time, because you wanted to go against God's word, put it like that.
Basically.
Yeah, so the thing is, we have to just stop living for today and think about tomorrow and the future. You know, even though, say if he didn't get that car to go to the prom, you know, it wasn't going to stop him from getting his diploma. It wasn't going to stop him from being successful in life. But because of my wishes, it could have been me. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we be wanting to put that on ourselves, which I do play a part in it. But at the same time, if he was never acting the way that he was acting, this probably wouldn't have been a problem either.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? If it did happen, not saying what happened could have been avoided, but it's the point of you not being responsible. You know, and I knew he wasn't responsible before I got there for him. So I can't really get mad at him for not being responsible. I have to get mad at myself for giving him the way access. the access, like we said, the access to doing that. So, you know, I'm dealing with that, and you know, if you learn by your mistakes, hopefully, and that's what it is.
No, exactly. Like, y'all, it's a hard lesson, but what? It is so funny because you said exactly what I wanted to say. Like, you living for today, you living for the present instead of thinking about the future. Because if you're thinking about the future, if you're forward thinking, some of this stuff you just wouldn't do. And yeah, your kid, when you have to tell them no, they may be mad at you. They may be mad at you. They may not talk to you if they, you know, whatever the case may be. But you have to be okay with that. Because had Eli set down Phineas and Hophni, that was his son's names, they would have been mad. Now we don't got access to the good meat. We don't have a job no more. But that could have saved their life. Because the Bible doesn't say how long they was doing this, but me knowing the nature of God, this wasn't no 1-2 thing. They probably had been doing this for years, and God tried to give them a chance after chance after chance to correct the behavior. They never corrected the behavior. They just kept on violating the sacrifices, violating the women in the temple, just doing all of these wicked stuff. They didn't have the heart that their father had for God. And Eli got wrapped up in it, because I do believe Eli truly did love God, because he did tell his kids, y'all are wrong. Y'all are doing wrong. But like my husband said earlier, he didn't put his foot down. He didn't sit them down. He didn't bring discipline. He didn't say, hey, y'all are, because the priest is supposed to be clean. How can you even take a sacrifice? Because the priest is supposed to be clean for the other people to take their sacrifice, so now they can go clean. That's the whole point of the sacrifice. The sacrifice is to redeem you. The sacrifice is to make you cleanse you from whatever sin you committed. But you're perverting this person's sacrifice now. Now they still dirty because you a dirty priest. And so it's imperative, parents, that we have follow through. Whatever it is that we're saying that we're not going to do or do, we need to stand on it, because you're doing your kids a disservice. Now, this is the last thing I'm going to mention. Oh, go ahead.
I got one thing, though, because I forgot what part of the Bible it was saying that, because you have to really continue to do something to God to punish you, I believe. You have to really, so he's something to anger.
He's slow to anger.
He's slow to anger. He's slow to anger. So imagine how many times I have not, I ain't gonna say not discipline my kids, but not listen to God's word. And so for him to get to the point, you know what, I had enough. Boom. Yeah. I'm gonna punish you for this, and the consequences I'm dealing with. He making sure he already knew what was gonna happen.
That's right.
Let's let y'all know that now. He already knows that I was gonna come, I was gonna do this. So he waited, and he could have been waiting on me 5 years ago, knowing I was gonna do this today.
Yep.
So, you know, that's all I got to say on that.
No, that's true. Like, God is slow to anger. So when he finally do get you, just know he done gave you chance after chance after chance after chance after chance to correct the behavior. And I want to give this last nugget before we close. A friend of mine, we had prayer today, and we were talking about she mentioned Gen Z, which is, our kids' generation. Like, our younger kids, they generation Alpha, but the older ones, y'all know, Trey, they Gen Z. And she say a report came out. They are struggling, y'all, in corporate America. They're struggling because they're lazy. They don't have no work ethic. They don't want to work. I haven't read the article. This is just what was relayed to me by a friend. And that's concerning, but I had to look back and I had to say, okay, that falls on the parents. Because by us constantly giving our kids stuff, and they don't have to work for it, they're taking that same attitude into the workforce. And so it's doing a disservice for our kids. So now when they go in the workforce and they half-stepping, they still think they're supposed to get their bonus. They still think they're supposed to get a promotion. They think they're supposed to get all of these privileges, and it's not working for them. And then, like the song Whitney used to say, the kids are the future. These are our future. So do you want lazy politicians? Do you want lazy teachers? Do you want lazy representatives in place? And it all stems from because you're giving your kids, you're rewarding them for doing the bare minimum. Mm-hmm. They're not even putting their best foot forward, and you're giving them a reward. And we gotta stop doing that. And guys, when we bring something to y'all, that's because we have had to walk through it, or God has had to correct us with it. Like I told y'all the last couple of episodes, we are not perfect. When I'm giving you this stuff and I'm explaining it to you, it's not because I have it all together or my husband has it all together. Like he just said, we had to walk through this because we went against wise counsel and that gut feeling, which we know is the Holy Spirit that told us not to do this thing. So, babe, before we close, was it anything else that you wanted to add?
No. Just think before you act.
For sure. So, guys, I thank y'all for tuning in. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Now, until next time, it's Shantanell Linden with All Blended Up. Bye-bye.